A lot of kids nowadays come to Ashoka and ask us questions regarding liberal education and further career options available, for them now. So I'll speak of it, but I'll share a journey of mine. I think that journey would help understand a few aspects. So when I was a kid, I think my parents used to ask me stupid questions. And I'll name a few stupid questions, right? For example, they used to ask me when I was a kid, Beta bade ho ke kya banega? What would you do when you grow up? And the reason I say that stupid is because if I really ask them today what they plan to do for next 5 years, they'll not have an answer to it. So why is it that they expect a kid who's that young to really know what they intend to do for the future? As if they're God sent, they are creatures of God, and they would know in advance what they intend to do. The reason I say all this is because when I was a kid, I used to play with a train toy. So if anybody asked me at that point of time, what would I do when I grow up? I'll say a train driver. But as every student would experience, as you grow, your options alter. You keep on answering different things. Your life teaches you, tells you various other things you could do. So I went to an army school. I wanted to join the army. Obviously, I did not join the army, right? I saw the Sukhoi for the first time. I wanted to join the Air Force. I did not join the Air Force. I was not deciding my careers. My marks were deciding it. My circumstances were, or my parents were deciding it for me. At that time, it was a conversation that 80 above would do sciences, 60 above would do commerce, whatever left would do whatever. At that time, it was known as arts. Now it is known as humanities. And times have really changed. Now kids above 90 are also choosing humanities. So what has happened in the few years is something which Ashoka is truly trying to represent. And I'll speak of that. If I could share my screen, if that is okay with you, I'd like to bring my screen up.
Yeah, that's completely fine.
So are you able to see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ashoka basically came from this need of having a lot of educational institutions in India, but really we didn't have an education model which will truly be a world-class education, which is affordable for all, right? That is where the need this came from. But we are a liberal arts and sciences university. But what does the term liberal mean? Because I hear a lot of conversations about liberal education, and there is a lot of myth. Liberal education, first, let me clear this, it is not humanities. A lot of people say this, and that's sad because when somebody does a program from DU in humanities or English honors or psychology or philosophy, they say they're liberal arts students. It is not. So I'll clarify this dictionary word. What does liberal mean? Liberal basically means willing to respect or accept behavior or opinion differences from one's own, open to new ideas. If I have to break it down simply, it means khula dimag, open-mindedness. When you put it to education, what does it mean? It's concerned with broadening person's general knowledge rather than with a technical or a professional training, right? So let's break it down further. So if I have to really say what's a liberal education, it's first freedom to choose what you want to study. What do I mean by this is that at Ashoka, it does not matter you're from sciences. It does not matter you're from commerce. It does not matter if you're doing humanities. You could do everything which you want to do at Ashoka, right? And when I say everything, why even restrict to humanities or commerce or sciences? Why can't it do combinations? Why is it that a science student can't do stuff with computer sciences, biology, psychology, philosophy, history, and so on? And why is it that a humanities student can't do psychology with computer sciences, biology, international relations, and so on? So it has the freedom to choose what you want to study. So we'll remember this because I'll discuss this later. So because of this, it obviously goes beyond arts. It goes beyond sciences. It goes beyond commerce. Because of this, it becomes an interdisciplinary approach. Now, again, it's a complicated word, so I'll explain this. Kids normally would understand multidisciplinary. I'll explain. So till class 10th, you're doing multiple subjects together, but you're doing it linear in nature. What I mean by that is, an English teacher would come to class and teach English, leave. History teacher would come in class, teach history, and leave. It's a multidisciplinary approach, but linear in nature. Everybody's teaching their subject. You're doing multiple subjects together. How do you make it interdisciplinary? So let's imagine an English teacher coming to class and saying, this book is written by an author XYZ. Historically, this is the context of this book. Psychologically, this is what the author was thinking. Then it becomes interdisciplinary. For example, I have, a glass of water with me. Now, water is a study of chemistry. It's also a study of biology, physics. It's also a study of psychology, philosophy, history, literature. So if I have to really understand water and I only understand H2O, do I really understand water? Now, people might say, you know what, this is all hypothetical conversations. What about the real world? Let's take an example. Facebook. It's not an IT company anymore. Facebook's owner, Mark Zuckerberg, was called for a courthouse hearing a few months back, which was questioning him on ethics. Ethics has nothing to do with computer sciences. Apparently, it has nothing to do with law. It has to do with something which is to do with philosophy. Facebook makes money. Answer is yes. Economics. It has the capacity to alter people's decisions' minds. Yes. Psychology. So if somebody really has to create something like Facebook and he only does computer sciences, he'll just be a coder. He'll not be able to create a multi-dimensional company like Facebook. And this is true for now almost all industries. Let's take the example of COVID right now. Is it a biological problem? Is it a social issue? Is it a psychological issue? What kind of an issue is it? Who would be able to solve it, right? So there is no one dimension we could really approach. And that's where interdisciplinary really helps. Because of this, the education at Ashoka it gives you breadth and depth, right? So if you really want to evaluate if any university or any program is giving liberal education, just break them down into these 4 buckets. And if all 4 buckets tick, you could say it's a liberal education. Otherwise not. Because like in international school, universities and schools have started using this word liberal, but they're not really liberal. You have to understand that. But why did this need come? We were okay with whatever education we were having. We would have been fine with it. So if you observe the changes in industry, 18th century, steam happened. 19th century electricity, 20th century information technology, 21st century artificial intelligence. The industry has moved from a physical state to a cognitive state. What do I mean by this is the physical understanding of an industry does not exist anymore. So earlier, our education system was designed for that physical state where there was a production line, everybody was given a certain task and they were supposed to perform in that task. That's it. Sadly, our education system has 2 revolutions. We've not even come to the 3rd one, which is information technology. Because if you really ask for kids around you, you don't let them access the World Wide Web, go get that knowledge and get upgraded. You still limit them to specific information, specific knowledge, and ask them to limit themselves to that. So that's the challenge in the education. Thus, liberal education came to existence. And I feel sad when we say we, introduced this in India, we got this from outside. We had liberal education. So if you go back in history, what was the education the kings were having? The kings were trained in Shastra, music, theater. They were taught in all disciplines, right? We had liberal education. We did not have a formal education system. We had a caste system for education. We had people to train one skill set to the other in generation, right? So liberal did exist, but it only existed in India to the higher bracket, right? So that gives you some context with where liberal is in India and how it came back in India in that sense. So if you really ask your grandparents, they had a one job, one skill requirement. So I remember my grandfather saying that, join a company and you'll retire from it. In time, you would have seen that, students' parents, they would have had multiple jobs. And in that, they had a requirement to gain multiple skills along with it. Kids have a different challenge today. They're going to have multiple careers and multiple skill requirement. And that's where a traditional education system cannot help them, because they have to be constantly evolving again and again and again. Critical thinking is at the base of it, and formal education in India does not offer it. Sadly, neither the top ones in India offer that. That's a challenge. Because of this, kids have been primarily targeting education outside India. Ashoka became the answer to that. So Ashoka got formed by a philanthropic initiative. 100 plus founders came together to form Ashoka. Just to name a few, there are 100 plus founders. We could not name them all. Ashish Dhawan, he's the biggest venture capitalist in the country. Deep Kalra, he's the founder of Make My Trip. Dilip, he is the founder of Sun Pharma. Pramath, he is the founding dean of ISB. Vineet Gupta, founder of Jamboree Education. Sanjeev, he's the founder of Naukri.com. So different people from various backgrounds have come together to form Ashoka. I'll speak of the leadership a bit, but these are Google data. You could really go and check them. I'll not spend more time. Rudranshu Mukherjee is the chancellor. Malvika Sarkar is the vice chancellor at Ashoka. please Google, in case your kids, you want to really explore if you want to join Ashoka or not, just check who they are. You'll come to know what credentials they hold. I have to explain the education system at Ashoka because it is different. It's unlike anything else which is there. So it has three models of an undergrad. So there's a foundation course, a major and a minor, co-curricular, and it has a fourth year which is optional. So after the 3 years, you get a BA honors or a BSc honors, which is a 6-semester program. Every year you have 2 semesters. I'll have to explain the 3 buckets. Foundation is what creates a base. It is not the first thing which you do. You start with it, but that's not the first thing which you do. So foundation is throughout the 3 years, but the first semester, there are aspects of foundation and that's all that you do. You cannot enter beyond foundation in the first semester. Foundation is intended to really undo what we have done in education, that is bucketize. So after 10th, we have sciences, commerce, humanities. We undo that completely. So foundation is what every student is required to do, no matter what your background is. So you'll be doing critical thinking, great books, literature and the world, mind and behavior, Indian civilization, environmental studies, economics and society, quantitative reasoning, principles of science. This base creates enough thought process for a child to think beyond a certain dimension, because the real world does not operate linearly anymore, right? That's where the kid starts exploring various aspects. You remember the initial phases of liberal education, which I explained? It does not matter which background you are, you could do whatever you want to do at Ashoka. This is the list of all the options you could do at Ashoka. You could really be a student of humanities and you could study biology at Ashoka. You could be a student of sciences, you could study philosophy, psychology. Forget that, you could create combination. So let's take an example of real world. I want to be an author. I want to be an entrepreneur as an author. What education should I have? I'll have English, probably choose English and media studies, but I'll have psychology along with it. Why? Understanding people's behavior would enable me to write for them. I'll add entrepreneurship leadership and add international relations. Because if I add these two, I'm able to create a business venture out of it, which I'm able to take it for the masses. I create my combination, and that is the degree I get. To clarify this, you got to do your foundation. You got to choose at least one major, or I'm choosing or, one interdisciplinary major. Minor is optional. I'm declaring minimum required for you to complete a degree. But nobody comes to Ashoka for a minimum. So you create combinations, you add. Idea is what you can do in your time is what you complete, right? So if I want to do a dual major, I could choose to do a dual major. I could choose an interdisciplinary major, a minor, or I could choose one of the minors which is listed in the pure majors. It's all up to me. I decide my flow of education. Now, many might say kids don't have the understanding of what to do at this age. And that's the best thing at Ashoka. You could really enter Ashoka undecisive. You could say, I don't know what I want to do, and start experimenting with all the options mentioned over here. So I give an example. Imagine Baskin Robbins. You enter Baskin Robbins with 31 flavors of ice cream, knowing what you're going to have. But after you've entered, you see so many flavors, you get confused. So what do? You ask for a tester and start tasting those ice creams. And once you start testing those ice creams, your mind changes. So you change your scoop or add multiple scoops. That's what you really could do at Ashoka. Well, internships is one, but when you do them, you do it in the summer. Summer is a time you could do 3 things. Either go home, stay at Ashoka, study more, gain more credits, or do a summer internship. Kids choose either one of these 3, but we highly recommend them to do the summer internship the first summer available. Because by the time they do the first internship, they have hit the industry, they could come back to Ashoka and they could play with those combinations again. Because they're given initial 1.5 years to play with those combinations and fixate on that. Initial 1.5 years, that is 3 semesters. So by the end of 3 semesters, a kid has to fixate on it. Kids could also do a summer outside. So you could really go to any university on earth till the time it has a credit transfer policy. You could apply in there for a summer or a semester. And kids have really utilized this. You could see a few pictures with a few names, but kids have gone to schools like Yale, Harvard, Columbia, Wellesley, King's College, Sheffield, Boston. These are top universities on earth. And kids have gone there and done their programs there. They could do either summer or a semester. What this means is whatever credits they earn over there, that credit gets counted in the degree at Ashoka. So literally, you could walk up to a faculty at Ashoka and say, what I want to learn is not what you could teach. So I'm choosing this faculty from this university to study under, and go there, do your summer and semester, and come back to Ashoka. You got to do 2 minimum co-curricular activities. So there's a list of few buckets: arts, film, performing arts, language, photography, theater. There's a broad buckets. You got to do 2 minimum from within those, right? So minimum is this. We're not limiting you to maximum. You want to do more? Please do. You want to do more minors, majors? Please do. So you basically get a BSc honors and a BA honors. So BSc honors in the list, which is opted or given over here. Again, Google data, you could check our website for this. But you got to keep one thing in mind. Few options have a star mark. For example, physics, computer sciences, mathematics, chemistry. Wherever you see the star mark, single star is you need maths in class 11th and class 12th. It does not matter which stream are you from. If you don't have maths, you can't do these. So if you are from a computer sciences background, you have maths, you could do computer sciences. But if you're from a sciences background, you don't have maths, you can't do computer sciences. Even if you have computer sciences, please keep that in mind. 2 stars, you got to have physics. If you have physics and maths, you could do physics. If you have chemistry, you could do chemistry. But it is only dependent on which background you're from. Biology has no star. You could technically do biology irrespective of whatever. Rest, everything which does not have a star, any background student could do it. BA honors, again, it's a huge list. Economics, big question coming from students from commerce background who do not have mathematics. If they don't have mathematics in class 11th and class 12th, they cannot do economics at Ashoka. Another recommendation, if you don't like mathematics, please don't even try and pursue economics from any other university. It is not going to help. Undergrad level economics is very different. The reason, especially I say that for Ashoka, imagine an economic advisor for a country Europe is teaching you economics at Ashoka. The level of economics being used over there would be very different. You'll not be able to cope up with it. Thankfully, if you have maths, you chosen economics, and the level is too much for you to handle, you could always drop out. You could drop out from whatever combinations you have chosen within initial 1.5 years. Drop out, choose another, create new combinations. Flexibility is given to you. 4th year is optional, but a lot of kids really choose it to do research. The best thing about the 4th year is, if you do the 4th year at Ashoka, after this, you could directly apply for a PhD. What do I mean by this is, PhD basically requires you to have research background. Kids in India normally write their academic papers in PhD. And Ashoka, kids start writing academic papers from the 1st, 2nd semester. So entire model at Ashoka is research based. And the 4th year really adds that extra leverage in terms of research is concerned. So kids could do an advanced major, 4 major courses, additional major courses than the majors what they have done. They could do their thesis, teaching assistantship, they could do that. They could convert a minor into a major. They could pursue a new minor altogether. So these are a few things kids do. But a lot of times kids choose the 4th year because they're planning education outside India, because education outside India many times requires them to have a 16 years of an undergrad, and this qualifies them for that, right? Again, these are, Google data. We have tabs with top universities on earth. Beyond these tabs also, I have mentioned kids could really go to any university till the time it has a credit transfer policy. They could apply there, go there for a summer and semester. And these tabs have really helped us form who we are. Faculties are at the base of it. So if you see, we have faculties from Oxford, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, PhD, Science Po, and not just academics, right? People from the industry. For example, Gopal Krishna Gandhi, he's a civil servant, he's a diplomat. He teaches history and politics at Ashoka. By the way, he's the grandson of the Mahatma. If any kid wants to really target a dream school or dream college and they have a summer program, I would highly recommend them to do a summer program. Summer program is something which they could do while they're in class 11th and 12th. They could apply in these summer programs, get a flavor of what is happening there. And based on that, they get a better understanding if they should apply to that university and why should they apply to that university. Ashoka also has a program which is known as a Young Scholars Program. Kids in their classes of 10th, 11th, and 12th could apply for this. This year, we're completely doing it online. Again, details available online. I'll leave to that. But how do we evaluate? This is the best part. India evaluates on 3 grounds: merit, quota, funding. Ashoka does not evaluate on merit, does not evaluate on funding, does not evaluate on quota. It is a holistic admission process. where we say if you're a bookworm, that necessarily does not make you an academic scholar, because you got to have other qualities which makes you a researcher. So we take academics and non-academic performance as mentioned over here. Because of lack of time, I'm going to pause it there. I'm going to continue the next important thing. October of class 12th is when applications begin. So way sooner than what you could think. And you got to keep that in mind, because a lot of kids in India start preparations after class 12th is done. 3 rounds of admissions have already gone. 4th round, 22nd of May is the admission deadline date. We're sticking to that deadline date. We have not altered it. Nothing has altered because of the COVID thing. We're right on track. But we wanted to really create a world-class university which is affordable for all. Ashoka has a need-blind admission policy. It has a need-based financial aid. That means if you can afford it and you have 99%, I'm giving an example, you'll not get a single penny merit scholarship. But if you have given you a seat and you can't afford a single penny, then everything is free. What I mean by this is, whatever you can't afford is what Ashoka funds it. Since our conception, we have not rejected a single student because of funding. I repeat, we're a need-blind admission, need-based financial aid. So fees is close to 9.4 lakhs per year. This is including tuitions and residential. For 3 years, it comes to close to 30 lakhs. Again, if you can afford it, no matter what your merit is, you don't get scholarship. If you cannot afford it, whatever you can't afford, if you have given you a seat, we fund it. It's not a loan. You don't have to pay it back. There's no contract. Keep that in mind. Again, some data in terms of how many students we have given financial aid. Last year, we took 600 kids. We gave 135 students 100% financial aid, which is huge. I hope you get the context. Again, so these are name of the companies. Again, Google data. You could check what all companies really come and give students in either internships or placements. Average salary package, I'm sure it is higher than most IITs in India. It's 8.5. Highest package was 23 lakhs. And not just that, kids really go to top schools after Ashoka. They go to Oxford, Cornell, Columbia, Chicago, Sciences Po, University of Cambridge, Emberley, LSE, and so on. Again, campus life, I think I'll kill it, because any university which is a residential program like Ashoka would have a good campus life. And the reason I say that is because that age is such that all that energy has to be absorbed in some form or the other. So similarly, like all those universities who have a great campus life, Ashoka also. But what really adds up is the campuses, the societies which kids themselves create. So it's a student-run body. They create their own societies based on whatever options or hobbies they have. I'm just sharing my details in case anybody has any questions from the audience. They could definitely get back to me in case they're not able to ask right now. I'm open for questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Singh. That was indeed insightful, and all the questions that we have been getting, somewhere or the other in your presentation, they have been covered. So I'm actually looking at, oh, did he talk about this or not? But yeah, nonetheless, maybe some of them might be repetitive, but
Please.
I would still put it forth. So
Please.
one question that we always get is about the intake. So how many students does Ashoka actually take in?
So, okay, the important thing is we don't compare one student to the other, right? It's a context-based application. What this means is we really check what opportunities were given to you and how did you perform in that. So, for example, today morning, I was speaking to kids from Mayo, and I was speaking to kids from Ajmer and other schools, which are small schools in Ajmer. So just because you're from a top school, from a certain family background, does not give you a seat at Ashoka. Right? Or just because you come from a very small town with another, family background, it does not restrict you from being at Ashoka. So what we're asking is, whatever opportunity was given to you, what did you do in it? So if in those opportunities you did not show that bounce, we're not interested in you, no matter what your background is. Right? So kids should not really think if they're competing with somebody. So a lot of kids also ask, is there a cutoff? There's no cutoff. So, so kids really say, I'm from a small town in Sangrur. I studied in a Hindi medium school. Am I eligible? There are kids who are studying English literature at Ashoka, 80 kilometers away from Ludhiana, from Sangrur. They've applied doing the masters at Ashoka, right? So it does not matter. Your background does not. That bounce matters. So whatever opportunities were given to you, did you push it or not? That's all we evaluate. So last year we took 600 kids. This year we're taking 650, 700 kids. We started 2014. First batch was 125. So we have grown from that number. We are 25-acre campus right now. We just acquired another 25 acres. That 25 acres has a capacity of 2,500 students. It'll be 6,000 plus in next year or so, right? So yes, yeah, we are evolving.
Right. There's one question which says, is SAT score accepted? I think I read in one of the slides that it is partially.
Okay, so it's optional. So SAT and ACT is optional. So any kid who's applying for education outside would give the SAT or the ACT. They should mention those scores. But if you're not planning education outside India, don't sweat about it. Ashoka does not need an SAT or an ACT score for you to apply to Ashoka. There is an Ashoka aptitude test, which is optional. Again, the entire application is free. You don't have to pay anything for the entire application process. And kids, I don't know if they know it, their parents would have paid so much money for them to get into school, right? And Ashoka does not have any application fees. It's a complete online process. There is no fees whatsoever, and it's a need-blind admission.
Perfect. It's a residential course, right? Because
Yes.
there are a couple of questions
Yes.
about that. There's one question which says, what if someone wants to prepare for GRE, GMAT, or CAT? How many credits are required to get an admission to any masters abroad in USA?
That's a question for me.
Yeah. What if someone wants to prepare for GRE, GMAT, and CAT?
See, again, if you're really applying for a good university outside India, they do have a few entrance exams requirement. For example, GRE in case you're planning a master's in Master's in Sciences, GMAT in case you're planning to do an MBA. Nowadays, I think GRE is also used in case you're planning an MBA. You could use GRE score for both. SAT is required in case you're planning an undergrad, right? But there are a lot of universities nowadays who don't require a GRE or require a GMAT or require an SAT for you to get an admission. I think what everybody is really trying to check is your application. And that's the worst part of Indian applications. They don't know how to apply. And that's where a lot of help is really taken from people around. So, and Ashoka has consciously built an admission process where we, really take out those kids who have taken help. Because the first round of admission, kids could really take help. They could come to the second stage. The second stage is where they're coming and giving an interview. They're writing an on-the-spot essay. They're giving an Ashoka aptitude test right on the spot. So anybody who's really taken a help could really get through a school in the US because they really don't interview at an undergrad level, right? At a master's level, they could still interview. But in an undergrad level, they could really get through that process by taking help. And Ashoka, they can't. So if you can't write an essay, you can't represent yourself, it's going to be a challenge. It's an academic program. So we do ask you for having academic rigor. But it's not just that, right? So if you're not a Khula Dimag, I'm repeating it again, you're not a liberal student, we don't want you. So we are trying to find the right fit. We're not saying you should be the most brilliant kid. The definition of brilliant is different at Ashoka. Are you a liberal student?